Hi friends, welcome to Kelly Cinch Ranch. My name is Amanda. Today while we did farm tours, I thought I would just give you guys a little bit of information on us. A little bit of the story behind who we are. Turkeys need some water. Before we start with the 10 things to know about us, one of the things that you might notice is that most of the time, it's me. You might see Jacob or our son in a video, but typically it's me. And the reason for that is that, and this is a bonus information about us, right? Is that Jacob was actually a police officer. He's actually a police chief for many years, and so he's been in the spotlight for a long time. And so when you're a small town police chief, you're kind of the local celebrity. So he doesn't mind to be on the camera. He won't avoid being on the camera. It's just not his thing at this point in time in life. Let's get the cows watered. Cows are getting their water. Water hose, sprinkle leak. So number one, Jacob and I were high school sweethearts. We met when we were 17. We were actually set up mostly by Jacob's dad. We've moved the quail to the brooder and they're doing great. Apparently it's plenty warm in there. You're out of food. Chickens ate it. We were barely 18, and I mean 18 by I was 18 by 2 days when we got married, and we've been together for I think almost 25 years now. Number two, we have two boys. We have our oldest, Connor. He is 23 and he is in college. He is majoring in aerospace engineering, so that's a pretty long degree. And then our youngest is 15. That leaves me to number three. Number three is the issue of fertility. So we got pregnant really quickly with our first son. We were married 13 months when I had him, and then a year or two into it, we thought, let's have another one, and then the issue started. I ended up getting pregnant, and unfortunately, that baby, Gabriel, was stillborn. That was a really hard journey that actually kind of led us to our next point. But after that, I also suffered several years later, I had a molar pregnancy. That leads us to number four. Number four, we were foster parents for many years. Now, our issues with fertility weren't the only reason that we became foster parents. There was actually a pretty sad situation that Jacob dealt with at work that kind of led us down that road as well as meeting our first foster daughter, and so we became foster parents. We took in I think around, it was over 60, it's between 60 and 70 kids in a 6-year period of time. There's all our chickens. Hi, Rusty. After we adopted our youngest, we decided we were done, and that was it for many years until, I don't know, 7 or 8 years later, and we took in 3 more for about 6 months. We loved our time as foster parents, and in fact, we actually have a relationship with a lot of the kids and their families all these years later. Number 5, farming wasn't our first dream. Jacob told me on our very first day at 17 that he wanted to be a police officer. Now, I don't know if he was concerned that would scare me off, or if he thought maybe it would impress me. It actually did neither, because I came from kind of a police family. My uncle had been a police officer. He'd actually been shot in the line of duty. And then one of the men that I refer to as my grandpa, he was my babysitter's husband all growing up, was also a police officer. So I kind of relaxed, was like, okay. And I think he liked that. So we spent 20 years chasing corporate dreams. Here you go, babies. We chased those dreams to where Jacob became he was a police officer, he was a canine handler, he was a sergeant, and then eventually he was acting chief, and then he was chief, and yeah, so that's kind of what led us to that. I always knew I kind of wanted to work in the social work field. Well, after our years of fostering, I kind of wanted to work in the social work field. I worked with children with a mental health diagnosis for a while, and then I moved over to a medical clinic where I worked my way up to being the outreach manager. We loved it. We were both at places in our careers where we felt like we had made it, but yet there's still something missing. So before there was law enforcement, and there was corporate careers and things, we actually owned 2 different businesses. I think I mentioned in my last video that we owned a video game store. And we actually did that about the time that Jacob was going to the police academy. So 20 some years ago. And then a few years later, not too many years later, but a few years later, I opened like a craft supply store. It was during the time that, I don't know, any of you crafters out there might remember this, but the Walmart stores had taken out fabric out of the Walmart stores. And we actually opened a fabric craft supply store and things like that. So we've always had big dreams, and we've always kind of like to work for ourselves and that kind of thing. Number 7, we are the youngest out of all of our siblings. We both have siblings. We both have 2 living siblings. I have 2 siblings, and Jacob has 2. And then Jacob was actually a twin, and his brother unfortunately passed away from SIDS when he was just about a month old. Number 8, we built a house that we never lived in. So when we decided that we were going to move to a farm, at first we weren't sure it was going to be this one, more on that, we decided we needed extra capital. We could, save up and save up and save up, but it was going to take quite a bit of money, to really get us off the ground. So we decided to, and people thought we were crazy a few times in our life, that we were going to buy a piece of land, paid cash for it, and then over the next almost 2 years, I think it was, we built a house that we built to sell. And we built it. It was lovely. We sold that, and that's how we used the money to start up our farm. Hi, babies. Number 9, we lived on this farm before. So we actually lived on the farm. We didn't farm it. Jacob's dad was still alive then, and we helped out from time to time with hay and different things. We had chickens and things, but we weren't like really farming it, right? So I'm trying to hold the water and all the things here, juggling it. So we weren't really working the farm, but we lived here. Jacob was working as a police officer, and as part of that time I had owned my business. We were going to college, and I actually worked for a vet for a while during that time. But we lived here, and then Jacob got offered the police chief position at a town a few hours away, and we decided to take it, and we moved, to a little over 2 hours away. And at that time, we had no plans of ever coming back to the farm life. In fact, we owned a manufacturer home here, like a double-wide manufacturer home, and we sold that and had it moved just because we didn't know life would bring us. We didn't know that the corporate prodigal children would return. What you girls doing in here? Just make sure you're not laying eggs in here. You laid any eggs in here? You're just hanging out. Okay. Butterball, what are you doing in here? Come on, I'll walk you out. All right, open the gate. Come on, I know. There you go. Oh, had to move back into the greenhouse. It's cold out there. Number 10. We kept a secret for a really long time. So, in 2020, that's when we decided to build the house. So we closed on that property in February of 2020. And we started building a house. At that time that I told you that we sold. At that time, we were looking for farms in the area that we were going to move to, and that Jacob would kind of slowly transition out of law enforcement. I would stay working for a few years, that kind of thing. And we looked and we looked and we looked. We just couldn't find anything, honestly, that we liked better than our original homestead. The homestead we live on has been in the family for over 100 years, and it just kind of offered what we were looking for. So eventually, about the end of 2020, we decided, I remember we went and we looked at one last property. It was the day of the Christmas festival. I was in charge of the town Christmas festival, and I had to leave and go, and we went and looked at this property. It wasn't long after that we came to the decision that what we really wanted to do was move home. So in 2021, we made that decision. We knew we were going to move back to the homestead, to the original homestead. Jacob's dad had passed away in 2019. His mom was struggling to keep up with everything here, and it just made sense. Like, this is the farm that we would inherit one day, and it just made sense. And so we started planning. The issue is that, Jacob being the police chief, there's always drama and politics and things, and so we decided not to tell anyone. So we continued to build this house. Everyone in town knew we were building this house. It was very close to our previous home. And we just told people, yeah, like when we finish building this, we're gonna use some money. We're gonna buy a little place out of town and things like that. And no one knew we were leaving for over a year. It was a giant secret. We kept this secret for over a year, and when I tell you that it's a secret, like it's a big deal when you're in small town, like politics. Everyone knows you, like different things, and you are making plans to completely leave the area. There were things that had to be done. There were things that needed to be shored up. There was, just different things. I told my boss a few months, like 3 months, I think, before we left, 3 or 4 months. I gave her a little bit more of a notice. We were really close. But other than that, only Jacob's family knew, and just a handful, and I do mean like I could count them on one hand, of really, really close friends. In fact, I can only actually think of 2. Jacob had one, and I had one. So other than that, no one knew we were moving. No one knew he was getting out of law enforcement. Everything was a big secret up until Christmas of 2022. After we always did Shop with a Cop. It was one of my favorite things that we did each year. It was kind of our tradition that when we did Shop with a Cop, we took if we did it, some years we did it in the morning, some years we did it in the evening, just depending on the time slots available. if we did it in the evening, we took them out to dinner, all the officers out to dinner. Our treat, we paid for that. And if we did it in the morning, we took them out for breakfast. So this particular year, we went out for breakfast. And that's when we told the officers that we were leaving. There was mixed reactions. There was a lot of shock. One of our officers knew. He had just kind of figured it out. You know, he kind of put the pieces together. And one of them was clearly upset and just left. Actually, a couple of them left pretty quickly, just pretty upset. But you know, for the most part, they all supported our decision. It was just a surprise. It was a big surprise. It had been a big secret. In the world of small town gossip, it's amazing that we were able to keep the secret the entire time. But we did. We did it just because we didn't want to cause drama and turmoil, and there was some, you know, as he got ready to leave, you know, people want to move up into positions, and they start kind of campaigning for that, and we knew that was going to happen, and we just didn't want it to break the department apart, and we didn't want hurt feelings and things like that. So we knew if we just ripped it off like a Band-Aid, and we knew the city would be fine, that they would be able to hire somebody and all of that. We just didn't want the internal conflict, and these are the people you depend on for your life. And so we decided that it would be best that we just kept it a secret until the very end. So that was literally the beginning to middle of December, and Jacob's last day was the last day of that year. Looking back, that was the right decision, by the way. Anyway, so thanks for watching. I hope that this gave you just a little bit of backstory, a little bit different of a video, but I wanted you guys to get to know us a little bit better. You see the farm and you see the animals. You're like, how did they get here? How did they, turn their lives? I mean, we often say that we're the corporate prodigal children, but how did that happen? And so we might share more about that journey along the way, but this is just a little bit of backstory and a little bit of just information about us. Anyway, thank you so much for being part of this journey as we, here in our midlife decide to take a different stance, a slower stance, as we try to be more mindful of the things we eat, and how animals are raised, and the chemicals on our food, and just more, and just have a slower life, that we are enjoying this moment. Farming, I said the other day that farming makes you notice more. It makes you slow down and think. It makes you notice the weather. It makes you notice the wind. It makes you, it just makes you notice things more. And you're just living intentionally more, but at a much slower, less hectic, less drama-filled life. And we love that. Please, please hit like and subscribe. We're trying to get to that 1,000 subscriber limit. I hope that one day I look back and think, oh my gosh, we weren't even to 1,000 subscribers. But we hope that we get to that 1,000 subscriber threshold this year. I mean, it's a long journey, and we haven't really been real aggressive on that. But we really would appreciate if you would subscribe and follow us on this journey. We're so glad you're here. Thanks for watching, guys. Bye.